Let me tell you, this wasn't just another glamorous night in Hollywood. The room was packed with stars: Jeff Bridges, Rob Lowe, and of course the legendary Kevin Costner hosting a charity event to honor first responders. Everything was supposed to sparkle, everything perfectly choreographed for cameras and applause. But instead of glitz and smooth speeches, the spotlight turned into a battlefield, and at the center of it, none other than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Now don't get me wrong, this wasn't some explosive screaming match with broken glasses and slammed doors. The drama here was subtle, quiet, but oh so tense. The kind that makes you lean forward in your seat and whisper to the person next to you. Did you just see that? Picture this. Harry gets the microphone handed to him, clear as day, it's his moment. He smiles, he's ready to talk, and then, boom, Meghan makes her move. She leans in, her hand reaching for that mic, not once, but twice, with this strained little smile that said, "I belong here too." And Harry? Well, for once in his life, he didn't just step aside. He pulled that mic back, laughed it off like it was nothing, and kept going. But it wasn't nothing. Oh no. That tiny tug-of-war over a microphone was louder than any royal statement, louder than any tabloid headline. It screamed power struggle. The organizers on stage froze. One woman actually tried to pass Meghan the mic, then thought better of it and yanked it back like, "Oops, not for you." The awkwardness was unbearable. Meghan stood there smiling too brightly, too sharply, while Harry tightened his grip and spoke with this closed-off, defensive body language. It was like watching a couple who had danced perfectly in sync for years suddenly trip over each other's feet, and the audience felt it, the cameras caught it, the whispers started immediately. Now let's spill the tea. Meghan's move on stage didn't just look bold, it looked desperate. She wasn't even scheduled to speak that night. No, her stepping forward wasn't part of the plan. To everyone watching, it felt like she was forcing herself into a spotlight that didn't belong to her. Her outfit was wrinkled, her movements quick and slightly frantic, her grin almost glued on. This wasn't Meghan of 2018, the Meghan who could glide onto any stage, command every flashbulb, and leave audiences gasping. This was someone trying to claw back an aura that had started slipping away, and boy did it show. It didn't help that just days before, The Hollywood Reporter had dropped a scathing piece calling her a dictator in high heels, backed up by not one, not two, but 12 insiders ready to talk. Imagine the sting of that headline, and then to walk on stage at Kevin Costner's big event and look like you're muscling into a moment that isn't yours. People noticed. Oh, they noticed. Meanwhile, Harry wasn't exactly basking in glory either. Sure, he held onto that mic like it was his life raft, but behind that steady voice was a man torn in two. Just weeks earlier, Ukraine's government had addressed him as His Royal Highness in official correspondence, a title that, remember, was supposed to be stripped. That tiny recognition dragged him right back into the royal orbit he's been trying to escape. And you could see it written all over his face. One foot in sunny California, the other chained to Buckingham Palace. And Meghan? Her insistence only made that divide wider. It wasn't just a charity event anymore. It was a marriage drama unfolding right there under Hollywood lights. The second Harry clutched that microphone tighter, it wasn't just about words anymore. That mic became a symbol of control, of authority, of identity. Meghan reached for it again, her smile sharpened like glass, but Harry didn't budge. And that moment, oh, it spread like wildfire. Forget his actual speech. Forget the cause they were supposed to be highlighting. The world didn't care. Social media clips were slowed down, zoomed in, frame by frame. People analyzed his knuckles gripping the mic, her hand brushing toward it, the awkward shuffle of the organizers. Commentators were all over it. Some said this was the first real crack in their so-called united front. Others whispered Meghan's persistence screamed of desperation, that she could feel the spotlight slipping away from her and wanted it back at all costs. But the most damning silence? It came from the organizers themselves. No official statement, no polite press release to smooth things over. In Hollywood, silence speaks louder than PR spin. If no one's defending you, maybe it's because they don't see the point anymore. And Meghan, who once had the entire media machine bending over backwards for her, suddenly looked very, very alone. Behind the curtain, whispers only grew louder. Why wasn't Meghan at WME's huge Emmy party, an event thrown by her very own talent agency? Big stars, big opportunities, and she was missing. Agencies don't like clients who vanish when it's time to network. Insiders started questioning if Meghan's Hollywood experiment was already cracking. And then there was her look that night. Wrinkled dress, stiff movements, a laugh that rang just a little too fake. Small details? Maybe. But in Hollywood, perception is everything. And the perception was that Meghan wasn't gliding anymore. She was grasping. Now, let's talk about Harry. Because while Meghan's presence was shrinking, Harry's was quietly being elevated. And not by Hollywood, but by something far bigger, royalty. That tiny nod from Ukraine, calling him His Royal Highness, was no accident. Titles are never given casually. That recognition reminded the world, and maybe reminded Harry too, that he still carries a power Meghan can't touch. No matter how many podcasts or Netflix deals they sign, Harry's bloodline carries weight. and people at the Costner event noticed. Witnesses said Harry looked measured, controlled, maybe even tired, but unmistakably in charge. Meghan, by contrast, hovered at his side, stepping forward at odd moments, her smile plastered too wide. The imbalance was glaring. Instead of being a star attraction, Meghan was beginning to look like an interruption. And then came the Hollywood Reporter bombshell. Domineering Meghan, it read, with 12 insiders supposedly lined up to back those claims. Suddenly, her behavior on stage wasn't just a bad night, it was proof that Meghan wasn't losing influence by accident. She was losing it because the polished charm that once dazzled had hardened into something brittle. Something people didn't buy anymore. Harry wasn't completely untouchable though. Imagine this, at the same star-studded event, Richard Marx's wife confused him for Prince William. Ouch. Being mistaken for the other prince? For Harry, who once had one of the most recognizable faces in the world, that cut deep. It highlighted exactly how far his personal brand had slipped. But here's the twist. Meghan was clawing for relevance in Hollywood while Harry was still receiving respect abroad. The contrast between them couldn't have been starker. One being edged out, the other quietly elevated. And the world saw it. If Meghan thought she could waltz into Hollywood and reign as its new queen, the reality has been anything but that fairy tale. At first, people were enchanted. The Duchess turned Hollywood darling, the woman who took on the palace and walked away with her prince. But charm doesn't last forever, especially in this town. Her absence at the Emmy party hosted by WME, her very own agency, was like a slap in the face to insiders. In Hollywood, those parties aren't just champagne and small talk. They're lifelines, the place where deals are whispered, partnerships are born, and futures are cemented. When you don't show up, the whispers begin. Is she even serious about this career? And then her stage presence at the Costner event only poured salt on the wound. Wrinkled dress, stiff gestures, a laugh that felt forced. All the things people used to forgive suddenly became magnified. Meghan, who once floated effortlessly across red carpets, now looked like she was trying too hard, like she needed the room to see her, to acknowledge her. But Hollywood can smell desperation from a mile away. The more she reached, the more people pulled back. She wasn't the Meghan of 2018 anymore, gliding with confidence. She was the Meghan of 2023, fighting not to be forgotten. And the cruelest part? Hollywood doesn't forgive easily. Once they decide you're fading, every step you take is scrutinized. Every wrinkle in your outfit, every forced smile, every awkward laugh. It all becomes evidence that your star is dimming. While Meghan wrestled with Hollywood's cold shoulder, Harry was caught in his own contradictions. To the world, he's the California prince. Polo matches in the sunshine, podcast appearances, and a new life of freedom. But no matter how many times he insists he's done with the crown, the shadow of royalty refuses to let him go. That letter from Ukraine calling him His Royal Highness was more than just a formality. It was a reminder. Harry can live in Montecito, he can walk barefoot on the beach, but the world will always see him as a prince. It's a weight he can't shake, and maybe doesn't want to. On stage, it showed. His posture was stiff, his words steady but guarded, like a man torn between two worlds. One world where he's free, laughing under California's sun. Another where centuries of tradition cling to him, where people still bow, where his title carries more weight than any Netflix documentary ever could. And that tension, it makes him compelling. Unlike Meghan, who looked like she was pushing too hard, Harry seemed pulled by forces beyond his control. He didn't have to beg for relevance. It was given to him, whether he liked it or not. Yet that didn't mean he was thriving. The Richard Marx incident, being mistaken for Prince William, cut to the bone. For a man who once defined himself by his individuality, being remembered as the other one was humiliating. Harry, once the cheeky prince who outshone his brother in the headlines, was now struggling to stand apart. Together, Harry and Meghan looked like two people moving in opposite directions. She was clawing for the limelight. He was trying to balance two worlds. And the harmony they once projected, it was gone. Here's the thing about Hollywood. When you mess up, there's usually a team of publicists working overtime to fix it before dawn. They pump out statements, spin the story, flood the press with excuses. But after Harry and Meghan's awkward tug-of-war on that stage, nothing. Silence. No statement from the organizers, no clarification from the Sussexes' camp, not even a soft little misunderstanding line in the trades. And that silence was brutal, because in this town, silence isn't neutral. It's damning. It means people don't think you're worth defending anymore. And that, more than anything, rattled Meghan's image. She used to have Hollywood wrapped around her finger. Everyone wanted to be in her circle, to be seen in her glow. Now, it felt like doors were quietly closing. Executives were calculating, asking themselves if she was still worth the gamble. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Clips of the moment flooded TikTok and Instagram. Some slowed it down to catch every flicker of Meghan's smile. Others zoomed in on Harry's grip on the mic like it was a crime scene. Every angle, every pause, every awkward glance was dissected as proof that this power couple was cracking. And the narrative wasn't controlled by them anymore. It was shaped by the crowd, by gossip, by viral clips. palace. The irony? Harry and Meghan left the palace to escape scrutiny. But Hollywood's spotlight? It was sharper, colder, and far less forgiving. The question everyone whispered after that night was simple. Have Harry and Meghan finally lost their magic? For years they were untouchable. The brave rebels who walked away from the palace. The glossy Netflix darlings. The couple who held hands and defied every stiff royal tradition. But the image they fought so hard to build? It's starting to crack. Meghan, once the embodiment of effortless confidence, now looks brittle, as if every smile takes effort. Her charisma, once so natural, feels staged. Her absence at high-profile parties has people whispering that she's not the it girl anymore. And in a city that runs on buzz, that's deadly. Harry, meanwhile, is stuck in limbo. He wants to be free, yet the world keeps pulling him back to royalty. His recognition abroad makes him look powerful, but his slip in Hollywood, being mistaken for William, shrinking compared to Meghan's loud moves, reminds everyone that he's not quite the star he once was. Together, instead of partners in sync, they're starting to look like rivals. He clings to the status he can't escape. She reaches for the relevance she's scared to lose. And the result? Awkwardness, tension, and a marriage that suddenly looks less like a love story and more like a battle for space. That microphone tug became the perfect metaphor. Two people, one spotlight, both desperate to hold it. But the crowd? They weren't cheering anymore. They were watching, whispering, questioning. And once that aura of magic fades, Hollywood doesn't just move on, it forgets you.